I'm here. Some of us will be here. What I'm going to be doing today, I have a very strong desire right now to go. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Warner Brothers themes for their cartoons. Absolutely. You might have noticed the title for this one today, Wiley Coyote for President. Yep, sounds about right. Um, the reason being, what? Yeah, Wiley Coyote for president. Especially if you're looking at the Republicans, although the Democrats do it too. It's kind of what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the kind of shit that happens that really boils down to shooting yourself in the foot, dropping an anvil on yourself, running into a solid mountain that you thought was a tunnel, and then it is a tunnel, and by the way, that light at the other end of it is a train coming at you. That's where I'm looking at a lot of politics right now, especially within the Republican Party. You guys just can't stop shooting yourself in the goddamn foot. And I see what's going on. I look at news. I look at different reports on the internet. Go and search out the source material, and sure enough, there they are doing a thing that is obviously counterintuitive. What are you thinking? Quit shooting yourself in the foot. Quit dropping anvils on yourself. Stop thinking that feeding them BBs in their Roadrunner seed is going to allow you to grab a magnet and catch them that way. That's exactly what they're doing. And aside from a little bit of entertainment and being able to laugh at something that I laughed at when I was a kid, it's kind of fucking embarrassing. I mean, have you really thought about what it means to be a Republican? Nowadays, it means being a Warner Brothers character. I'm watching them. This last thing where we just watched Marjorie Taylor Greene on the steps of the Capitol berating colleagues while they were there with constituents and just yelling and screaming and making a scene. Somehow that's become the Republican Party. Exactly, Gene. It's embarrassing and sad. They really can't stop shooting themselves in the foot, and they've become Warner Brothers cartoon characters. More importantly, have you considered how that really lines up with what they say are their political beliefs? I want to look at some of the complaints that most Republicans have had in the last few elections, all right? The things that they're talking about in the last few elections, and then use those things that they're talking about to scream at the Democrats for all the things that they're doing wrong. Just running down the list. I posted this a couple of days ago, but I'm going to run down this list again. Feeling like your vote doesn't count. Feeling like elections don't matter. Feeling like the people in power don't care at all about you. Feeling that America is in the toilet and there's nothing you can do to stop it. And feeling like politicians always let you down. These are the things that they keep talking about all of the time. These are the things that they say, that's what's wrong with Washington. And somehow that's what's wrong with the Democrats. But let's look at that, and let's look at those complaints and see who is really affected by recent trends. And you can track these trends through history, but recent trends with GOP leaders and the legislation that they are trying to go for. One of the very first things that you got to look at, and it's happening all over the country, but it's happening very clearly, especially now that we have a new census that has brought more people into different geographic locations and made it so that in some of those, and what it is, it's escaping from the city and going into the suburbs and that sort of thing, but is causing and is going to cause more gerrymandering. We've got to draw, and what's the real truth about all of that? You know, I'm looking at right now how many people on my page have just popped up that are people of color. But what is that really about when they're doing this gerrymandering? We got to draw better district lines. We got too many brown people voting here, too many brown people voting there, and I'm being polite for the way they're saying it. So, okay, then they do their gerrymandering. There's a little problem with that, though. And this is where we start getting into the shooting yourself in the foot aspect of it. Is that poor people don't really have any specific color demographic. There are lots of poor brown people. There are lots of poor white people. There are lots of uneducated brown people. There's lots of uneducated white people. That poorer demographic does not necessarily have a specific skin tone. So when you're doing this gerrymandering and you're thinking that you're hitting the communities of color, that's not what you're doing. You're really hitting your base. You're hitting those people that voted for Donald Trump. You're hitting those poor sons of bitches that, can't, a lot of them uneducated and have a hard time just reading the fucking ballot. You're hitting them too. That's your base, you dumb bastards. And now, let's look at this feeling of not mattering. This thing that, well, my vote doesn't count. Votes don't matter anyway. What demonstrates that more than you creating laws that go against popular opinion? And if I need to point them out to you, you haven't been paying attention. The abortion laws that are coming up, the election laws that are coming up, all of them go against popular opinion. It is not the majority supporting these votes, but you're passing these laws that go against, that are counterintuitive to the people in your base. You know what? What is that going to help you? Hold on. Didn't have a light to look at. Excuse me. But, look at that whole feeling of that your vote doesn't matter. Yeah, when you look at what the Republicans pass for laws, you're fucking right. Your vote doesn't really matter much because they are not going with the majority in those laws that they're passing. One of the biggest mistakes the GOP is making is, quite honestly, thank you, Carletta, quite honest, and my dear wife, who could have yelled it through the room, just typed it. Okay, well, bless me, thank you. But one of the biggest mistakes the GOP is making is the big lie. And my God, they're pushing this down their throats. It's, yep, they stole that fucking election. Polls show that Republicans feel that their vote doesn't count because of voter fraud. What does that do? And we don't have to look far or very, too much into history. We can just look at the results in California within the last couple of weeks and the Georgia Senate election back in January. It's a lie. Your vote isn't going to matter. They're going to steal it from you. They're just going to steal the fucking election from you. You go ahead and just keep yelling that. And you know what you're doing? You're making your base think further still, already pissed off that their vote doesn't count, but you keep echoing that, and you're making it so it really doesn't, you dumb fucks. Wiley, Coyote, stop dropping anvils on your fucking head. You want to really see all of that evidenced? The 6-point plan to overthrow the election that Trump had. It's out there now in emails. This really was a thing. They had a plan. Think about that. I didn't win, but let's say I did. The fools are going to believe it, and they fucking did. How does that not negate votes? How does that not turn your electoral base completely off of elections? That's also the thing that we have to do to make sure we're not being Wiley Coyote and shooting our own selves in the foot or walking down a tunnel that looks like, oh, there's the end of it. Oops, it's a train coming this way. We've got to make sure that for all of the things they're doing to get rid of the vote, which includes their plan, as Gene just said, we've got to make sure that for everything they do like that, we counter it by pushing that much harder to get our people to the polls. That will make a difference. Yeah, it was. It was a coup d'etat. It was exactly that. That's what he was going for. Now, you might like that big lie plan, but what about its use? And here's another one. They're talking about this whole, whenever you don't like the way it turns out, just say, it was a fraud. It was a goddamn fraud. All those ballots, they were all false. We're going to do another goddamn audit. Find out that you lost by more than you thought you did. But all of that, we're going to sit there and point that out. The big lie, how does that work out for you? It means that further down the road, when you do win, and you will, anybody else can use that same stupid fucking playbook against you, against your guy that won. Rigged election. Who's to say it's not? All I got to do is say, nope, it's a lie. Go down their 6-point plan. And sure enough, there I am, overturning a fucking election. Your vote doesn't matter. If they keep doing it that way, it doesn't matter. Republicans feel that politicians don't care about them. There's another one right there. They scream it. No, they don't care. Those people in Washington, drain the swamp, lock her up, all that other shit. Them politicians, they don't give a flying shit about me. Did Trump come to your aid when you were arrested? All those people that were at the Trump rally? Did Trump come to your aid? Did he grant you any pardons? No? Well, he did to a bunch of his rich cronies. He did to a bunch of the political hacks that he had there. But you Wiley Coyotes that keep shooting yourself in the foot, did he come to your aid? Well, no. No, he didn't. You want to talk about that the politicians don't care about him? Well, let's start right there. He doesn't give a fuck about you, nor do the Mitch McConnells of the world, nor do the Matt Gaetz, the Marjorie Greene Taylors, any of them. They don't give a fuck about you. They give a fuck about being reelected. In Mitch McConnell's case, they give a fuck about his legacy being that, oh, I stopped everything and I put every goddamn conservative judge I could on the bench. That's all he cares about. You want to talk about politicians not caring about you? It would be the Republican politicians that don't give a fuck about you. They care about rich people. They care about powerful people. That's about it. And whose platform brought us? Well, no, let's hold on a minute. When there was another one there of the poor people. Donald Trump didn't come to bail your ass out when you broke into the Capitol. The other thing that happened, well, what about those SNAP benefit cuts? Do you think they really affected a whole lot of his rich buddies? Do you think that they affected the people in power? No, they didn't. They affected poor people. By the way, that is the base, is generally poor people. That's who these laws, that's what they're doing that hurts you. But you think that, oh, politicians don't care about you. Yeah, if they're Republicans, they don't. Another one is gas prices. Did you notice where gas prices were going and what they were doing before the pandemic, just before the pandemic? We had them going up and down and up and going up for stupid fucking reasons. And then not coming down for a very long time. That's Donald Trump and his caring about you? I don't think it is. I really don't think they care about you, folks. And Republicans feel like the country is at its absolute worst, which, by the way, they might be right about that. But that's the thing. This country, it's in the fucking toilet. Somebody's got to bring it out. Whose platforms brought us here into the toilet? Whose platforms ended up creating riots in the summer? The whole back the police and the blue line thing and a flag and all of that. Those things brought us to where, they like us cops beating up people. Come on now. Here's a guy, I'm going to put a knee on his goddamn neck. And sure enough, there you go. Those policies are what turned this country into the shithole nation it's becoming. Those weren't democratic platforms then. Those weren't democratic laws that had been put into place causing all of that then. Not that the Democrats are innocent of that shit. They're not. But if we're talking about the shithole nation that we became over the course of the last few years, well, then that would be Donald J. Trump was in power, wouldn't it? Anyhow, there you go. Another one. You think he cares about you? Not when the country's at its absolute worst. You think the Republicans care about you? No. They care about fanning the flames that caused the summer blowout. Then, if that's not enough, the summer, because of all the police abuses, and they've been going on forever, but then January rolls around, right directly there. Who can you call that one for if not calling it for the Trump team? January 6th was a Trump event. Yeah, the country's fucked up. Yeah, the country's got a lot of shit going on, like January 6th. Okay, the country's at one of its worst ebbs. Look at what brought it there. You voting in the people that you voted in. The other one that's, as far as all of these things that they keep coming up with, the reality of Trump's lies beyond the insurrection is what it has done to the trust in elections. Of course you don't trust them because Trump told you not to trust them. It's also been the cause of numerous new laws that have been instituted. Now, you want to talk about the country going to shit and what legislators have done what to whom. If you think that these voter restricting laws are harming anyone but the Trump base, poor people, people of color in those communities, yes, of course. But it's harming the Trump base just as much as them. Republicans, you want to not be in power again? Keep making it so that it's harder to vote. Because let me tell you about harder to vote. You know why you lost in 2018? You know why you lost in 2020? Because we said come hell or high fucking water, we will vote. Go ahead and keep passing your restrictive rules. Keep trying to keep the vote down. You know who you're going to hurt? You're going to hurt yourself, Wiley Coyote. Stop putting BBs into the birdseed and grabbing a magnet. It's just going to slam you into a goddamn pole like it always does. It's also been the cause, what I said about the laws, but it's made it so that it's harder for your base to vote. For poor white people to vote. That's what you did with that. And the politicians that you're voting in, you can't trust the politicians anymore. Well, when you're doing what you're doing and pandering to who you're pandering to, they're going to make some pretty bad fucking choices. Take a look at the politicians we have in there right now. I would like to see Marjorie Greene Taylor sit there have a one-on-one discussion or debate with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or with other woman, curly hair, really, really, really smart, great with numbers. Shit, I can't remember her name right now, but incredible mind. I'd like to have them sit down with her and have a nice back and forth. I'd like to have Matt Gaetz sit down and have a nice back and forth with Pete Buttigieg. Or Governor Newsom. Let's have a real discussion between there. And let's see who comes out looking like a bunch of fucking idiots. And see who comes out looking like, oh, yeah, Katie Porter, that's who I'm talking about. Fucking genius. I love her. Wouldn't you like to see Lauren Boebert and her sit down and go at it for a little while? God, I'd love to see that. But that's the whole point. You keep voting in shit, you're going to get shit. It's like the blind leading the stupid right now. Yeah, that's what they're facing, those they voted in. And another one that they keep trying to do, just obstructing isn't working to make anyone's life any better, especially the life of the base, the poor people. And that's all we're doing, is you're trying to govern by obstruction. How is that helping the base? Quit shooting yourself in the fucking foot. Let's see some plans. I don't give a shit if it comes from a Republican. I give a shit if it comes from a person with some brains as opposed to an idiot that wants to stand on the Capitol steps and call names. I want to see real legislation. But if all you're going to do is obstruct, we're not going to see that. No, you're right. The politicians we're getting aren't worth a shit, at least the ones you're voting in. Here's the problem. Democracy is slow. It's always been slow. It was planned that way. We live, however, in a disposable society. They want a fast solution to everything, and everything has to be, just shown how it's going to be better right there with one quick line, which was, why wouldn't you vote for a goddamn reality TV star who can do that until you get right down to his plans were terrible? But you want these quick fucking answers. It's not how it works. Democracy is slow, always has been, should be slow. It's going to take some time. That's one to us. Stop shooting ourselves in the foot. We can get there, but it's going to take time to get there. I do hate the fact that we are from within shooting ourselves in the foot. Stop it. Democracy is slow. The only time we get fast solutions, they usually don't work. You wanting a fast solution is akin to wanting a dictator. That's how we got here. And that's how a lot of democracies worldwide, Brazil is a good example, have gotten these god-awful dictators. Erdogan's another one. They're democracies. Look what they put there. In England, somehow he's turned around a little bit, not a lot, but because I finally realized that Donald Trump was a fucking asshole, so we stopped following him. The point is, real democracy isn't simple. We have to rule ourselves as a people. That's the model, folks. We don't want a king. We don't want a strong man. We, the people. That is complex by design. Try to remove that, and all you do is remove your own voice from the process. Stop shooting yourself in the foot, Wiley Coyote. Stop chipping away at that edge of the cliff and have your end of it fall off. That's what you're doing. Whole mess comes down to a simpler reality. While you think you're voting for democracy, you're really voting against the things that affect you. In short, you're choosing things that are against your self-interest. That's what the GOP is right now. The positive in all of that, however, is that we Democrats have to do a very simple thing. Keep letting, we've got to be, how many times did you see the Roadrunner actually do anything to combat Wiley Coyote? Didn't happen very often. Most of the time, he just went ahead and let Wiley shoot himself in the foot. That's what we have to do. Keep it simple. Keep letting themselves shoot themselves in the foot. The things they're doing work against their base more than they work against anything else. But we've got to make sure we keep our base just as strong as theirs, and we've got to start walking in lockstep. Coming to that in just a second. They stand together and march in lockstep. It's the one thing that they do right while we're fighting amongst ourselves. We have got to embrace the idea of not getting everything we want, but having good, solid leaders and saying, all right, I didn't get that out of it, but we're going to get this, and this, and start walking in lockstep. We're having a tendency to become Wiley Coyote ourselves a little bit here, and it isn't going to help us. The progressives right now are saying, we already compromised in a $3.5 trillion number. The moderates are saying it's too much to bear. Both things can be true. And I think that both things are, to a degree, true. Finding the way to deal with it is to not shoot ourselves in the foot. That's the whole fucking trick, is stop feeling Wiley Coyote. A very close friend of mine and I just finished a conversation not long before I did this, and I got to give a shout out to him, my buddy Craig Isley. He and I have been friends for a very long time. I think probably pushing 40 years now. But anyway, we finished a conversation in video chat. We talked about some of the differences between the Republicans, which, by the way, he is a registered Republican. He is by no means a Trumper. And he voted Democrat all the way, and he sees the Republican Party for what it's become. But I brought up that we Democrats do seem to shoot ourselves in the foot, and we do it with our purity tests. They're everywhere, everything we touch. And they're very possibly going to kill us. I mentioned this, and he pointed out his thought on why we do it. He said, and I think he's right, that we're afraid of any comparison to them. We're afraid of any comparison to them. That's why we institute these purity tests. And they shoot us in the foot every fucking time. The first comparison to make, if you're going to do that us and them thing, the very first comparison to make is that we are all human. And by that, imperfect. The times when they say, see, what about, see, he's just like, and rattle off all of these comparisons. That's gonna happen. So fucking what? Let some of that happen and let it roll off your back. Because if we're marching in lockstep, we know we're doing the right thing for the most amount of people, for the betterment of the country. Don't let them use that to turn us into Wiley Coyote. That's what they're doing. We know the difference between right and wrong. We know the difference between a politician that's just out for themselves, is a crooked, stupid son of a bitch, or a politician that really is somebody that is going to look out for our best interests. We know the difference. We're smart enough to do that. Trust that. And don't drop an anvil on yourself. All right. That's what I've got, America. I'd like to hear from you. I understand I've got some mail coming to me, and I'll check that during the week next week. But I'd like to see a bunch of it there, and you can do that at Post Office Box 853, Spencer, Tennessee, 38585. Nothing I like more than hearing from you guys. Nothing I like more than getting a good little gift every now and then. Getting a hat like my Make Believe hat that is it's up there in a very prominent location now. Um, the stuff you send me is great. The ideas you send me, telling me what's going on with you. Brenda Westy always sends me a nice, involved letter saying this, and this about her life right now. John I. Fly has done that, sent me stuff about his life. I know what's going on with a lot of you anyway because we are actually friends now on Facebook. There are quite a number of you that I count as my friends. But I still like hearing from you. I like hearing your ideas. I like hearing what you think can make things better. Let's see some of that. Post Office Box 853, Spencer, Tennessee 38585. All right, America, I love you. Don't drop an anvil on your head and share this shit.